It's time to review what you and we, for one reason or another, missed in vain, and at the same time fall into childhood, include and nostalgia, as for example in the case of the game Chronicles of Myrtana, which was released last December and became not only the best mod for Gothic 2, but in principle one of the best fun works in the whole history of fashion. The reasons for success lie on the surface. Firstly, the authors implemented a new huge region, the island of Archelaus. In the original series, he was only mentioned, so the developers, as follows from their interviews, did a great job in order to correctly fit Archelaus into the Gothic settings. Both this task and its principal work on project require a lot of time and effort. The Chronicles of Myrtana were made for 4 years, and at the final stage they were already working on about 200 peoples. So this huge new wonderful world, perfectly inscribed in the no less beautiful old one, is fully worked out in detail. Even the first village is not 2.5 houses, but an almost full-fledged city. Not to mention the titular Archelaus, this is a whole metropolis, the largest settlement that I have seen in the games of the Gothic series. Couriers have even been introduced here to help get to a particular area or a specific place. Many locals will gladly share the history of the island with you, tell you about the troubles that surround it, about the current political situation, and intrigues in power cycles. However, the main character, a guy named Mervyn, sealed here not to save but to save himself. He is not a chosen one but an ordinary person, so there are a lot of personal motives and drama in the plot, and this is the second reason for the success of the mod. Together with his brother John and other inhabitants of the continental part of the kingdom of Myrtana, Mervyn fled to the island from the war, but found that they were not welcome with open arms here either. Many locals are dissatisfied with the influx of refugees. They are aggressive, they just accuse them of all mortal sins and are not in hurry to help. In addition, there is a confirmation in power. The interests of groups clash, and not everyone likes the laws that King Robert II adopts. In many ways, all this resembles not only the Gothic itself, but also the visual series, the influence of which is also noticeable in the construction of tasks. It must be said here, on the one hand, the script writers rely heavily on scripted sense and quest, which for example show us how Mervyn and his brother are sent to drink, eat and indulge in memories of home, family, their past. These look really strong, soulful and very personal. But when we came to Archelaus in search of John, who is trouble and who according to the plot needs to be found as soon as possible, the authors on the contrary allow us to do whatever we want, and given the quality of quests, there is a very high risk of doing anything, but not looking for a bother. After some time, the narrative returns to the active phase, and the personal story develops into something more, but the plot sucks in the way its pace slows down. On the other hand, this is partly due to the controversial of the genre and the tradition of the series itself. After all, we value freedom and do not want Gothic to turn into an exclusive story drama. That same freedom in the Chronicles of Myrtana, it seems, has become even more. Breakthrough tasks, in addition to the story ones, there are many made side ones, including those from the bulletin board, where we are promised a reward for killing certain monsters or bandits. There were also random, sometimes very interesting meetings. So I met Iset, a native of Nordmere, who is too hot in Archelaus. He asked me to find him a place cooler. In addition, we are faced with a dishonest realtor. experiences and attacks by homeless people, participate in physicals. We work as a sales respective, consulting contracts for the supply of beer, trying to reconcile the lovers, and we often conduct investigation. For example, we find out who broke the mechanism in the port, and choose whatever to resolve everything free of substitute one of the workers, as the employer asks. Yes, in addition to the inhabitable classic of the genre about find, kill and bring, in the Chronicles of Myrtana there are less trivial tasks. One day, for example, a local shepherd will ask to put sheep poop in the bed of the one whom he considers guilty of that of his beloved sheep. You can do as he wants, you can find out what will happen of the poor animal, or conversely get along with the culprit and substitute a shepherd himself, with the help of the same pop-up. In general, there are a lot of options, starting with the classic of the genre, how to get into the city, in the trust of the village headman and obtain official permission, work for smugglers, selling drugs to farmers, and go through the caves. Try to give a bride or a party official papers, which according to another guest we had to return to one of the merchants. In the city itself, we are looking for a way to get the status of the citizen and decide which of the two factions to join, the guards or the guild of mercenaries and merchants. Then a third force appears, is resistance. As a result, adventures can stretch for 100 hours, and we will get one of the 5 endings, which are influenced by combination of decision and consequences. Far from always obvious, that is having a delayed effect. I want to do this for a dozen of hours, not only because everything is clearly throughout, worked out and written, but also because here in order to survive, you need to pump and receive rewards. And this is just a part of the gothic atmosphere. This is almost always a lack of money, so you quickly remember all the reflex and instincts of 20 years ago. You start cleaning farm gardens, picking carrots, cabbage, grassroots, mushrooms, berries, some sticks, coins, vases, arrows, apples. In general, you turn into a homeless person who drags everything that is badly lying in the dimension pocket, so that later it can be profitably used or sold. And you also turn into a burglar itself. A special boss to manage to open a chest in someone else's house, until they notice it and give it to the neck. Of course, you are happy to take any job and try all the options in order to get the maximum benefits. And when you run on a mission, you always look around with a trained eye, looking for caves, broken cars with corpses and chests, around which walls goblins and rats are prowling. And still you stop and get distracted in the hope of getting hold of experience, meat, skins and trophies. Fortunately, everywhere is full of huts, farms, huts, ruins, ganses, camps, lonely wanders, caravans, everything that promise both adventure and benefits. True, at first you need to clearly understand that you are poor, weak, poorly dressed, and not to meddle where your neck will quickly turn. Therefore you remember the good old tricks, for example, for lure drunk monsters into guards. But when you level up, you will increase the strength, dexterity of magic from the teachers, the skills of using one-handed, two-handed weapons, a bow or a crossbow. You will buy a more or less decent sword or an axe-sphere, as well as ammo. Then what a pleasure and clothing do you experience, sorting into trophies, those whom you used to be afraid of and bypassed. But at the same time, you never became a killing machine. There are always new challenges. That the authors of the mod keep the balance of complexity, and this is much more important for reproducing the Gothic atmosphere than just transferring and repeating all the branded features. Residents, like monsters, go about their business, and you can sleep, eat, drink to improve your health. You can cook and watch how the hero also chopping something or working in forge. So thank for the fact all these chips are in place. Thanks to couple with landscapes and chic soundtrack, this immediately teleports the player 20 years ago. In fact, at first it was almost physically difficult for me to play Chronicles of Myrtana Echoes. So our editor had to resort to blackmail and representation. Still, many years have passed, I am largely used to a more comfortable gameplay, and here even a map of the area or settlements will appear only after you buy it, and quest keys and quest objectives are not displayed on it. You need to carefully read the descriptions in the most cumbersome magazine, plus branded to put it immediately, uncomfortable controls both in combat and when moving, plus a furious camera that clings to any active point, but remembering and getting used to it, I disappeared into this wonderful and moreover free game, which gives a dozen of hours of real adventures, which I advise you to do.